Oh, by the way, I set a record for food left on the press box table after the game on Sunday. Jack Lee's, it's empty. Your place is clean.
Shout out Doug Tamaro, great Arizona State SID.
What do you say?
Clean up your press box seat.
Well, I'm Japanese or half, so like a ethnic. My DNA makes me clean up everything. You haven't seen like when they go to the World Cup?
I know they do. I'm just saying I've seen your press box seat when we've been leaving at 1 a.m.
Okay, that might have been a bit of a fib.
Hello and welcome back to Dodgers Debate. I'm Jack Harris, the LA Times Dodger beat writer, along with our columnist, Bill Plaschke, who I trust got a full night of sleep, unlike our other columnist, Dylan Hernández, who we're recording this on Wednesday. So last night, we were in the press box till like 1 a.m. I don't know what happened. We really messed up.
Well, Dylan sleeps during the game, so it doesn't matter.
That's true. He's,
it got bad, man.
Together.
I got total mush brain. And I, at some point, so how do you spell the word pudding? Like putting away.
Not like the dessert.
Putting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jack looks at my copy
that.
And Jack goes, "You have an extra T in there." And it like really screwed with my fight, right? To have this.
Well, how would Dylan? I read your column. Pudding's the least of your problems in that column. And I read this. You just kissed Kershaw. Kershaw was terrible, or he was not great, and you paint him out like he's still in the hall. He's a Castile.
Oh, okay, wait.
I said specifically that he wasn't going to win.
So this feeds into the game I want to play today because I was also inspired by Dylan's column. We're going to play a game of Do You Believe? We're going to go over a couple Dodger players, that have had an interesting last couple weeks in good and bad ways. And I want to start with Clayton Kershaw because Dylan said Clayton Kershaw believes, but we've seen 4 starts now. Some ups and downs. The one this week might have been better had there been some good defense behind him. But at the same time, clearly the stuff is diminished. How much better he can get from here is kind of the big question. So I know where Dylan stands. Plaschke, do you believe?
No, and I don't believe in Dylan's column. And Dylan said, Kershaw said he felt great. Dylan said, who's to say otherwise? I say otherwise. The stats say otherwise. He doesn't have the put away pitch anymore. He's a great guy. Everybody loves him. He's a statue, but he's quite literally a statue. He's not getting the job done. The Dodgers are 2-2 with him on the mound. I don't trust him in the playoffs. I don't trust him in the postseason. I don't trust him to get through 4 or 5 innings.
So you think he just can't throw a curveball anymore? Because that's like once he can like do that, like he'll be fine, right? And I think here's the thing: is like let's like not sit here and pretend that his stuff just like fell off a cliff, yesterday, right? Like this has been right over the last 8 years, his stuff has gradually diminished, and this is the version of Clayton Kershaw, more or less, right? Now I will acknowledge maybe he's a tick down. That made a couple of All-Star. I mean, he started an All-Star game just a few years ago.
He's a tick down from the guy that got to the All-Star games in 22 and 23. This is closer to the second half of 23, which was still okay until that Diamondbacks playoff.
Now, here's the thing, right? It's like, look,
He can't strike anybody out anymore. He can't get swing and miss. He doesn't have swing and miss stuff in.
Now, so here's the thing, right? It's like maybe, okay, being that tick down, does that, put him beneath the threshold that you need to be at to get guys out in the major leagues? I mean, I don't know, what I did kind of...
You have to act like you knew in the paper.
Well, no, because, all right, but what I'm basically saying, though, is like if he believes it and he tells me that he believes it, I mean, who am I to say otherwise?
Here's the key. If you, apparently did you get the interview with him in the hallway as he's walking out to the car?
We might have had a conversation.
If he didn't give you that exclusive interview, would you?
It wasn't an exclusive. We were just chatting. We were just catching up. Two old veterans just catching up.
So would you have?
We have been around Kershaw a lot, right? We are Kershawologists. You might not want to acknowledge that yourself, but like we know this.
I do.
Right?
I know.
We have seen him when he's kind of been at that rock bottom, like I don't know what to do from here type phase, right? I think in 18 when the stuff when we really kind of first saw the first kind of drop and stuff. I think that those were like frustrating times for him. I think that there were times he didn't. We've seen him looking like he didn't have answers. And the one thing yesterday, I was actually surprised, right? Because I thought, I see him in the dugout after he got taken out, and he's kind of doing the usual thing that we've seen a lot, like in October, right, where he runs his fingers through his hair and drops his head. And I thought that he was, I just imagined him being on the bench there, just kind of evaluating, can I still do this and that? And I get to the locker room, and he's addressing the press, and I was surprised at just kind of how upbeat he was. Right, that surprised me. And you know what? If he still believes in it, I'll and he's right again. Like if he thinks he can do this, I'm going to bet on it.
I'm going to say I'm a fan of Kershaw. I love Kershaw. He's been great for the team, been great for the city. He deserves a statue. He's the greatest Dodger pitcher ever. He's better than Sandy Koufax, if you ask me.
Oh, you're on crack.
He's the look at his numbers. Look at his longevity. Longevity counts.
Yeah.
I don't think he's pitched the way the Dodgers needed to pitch so far.
Well,
that's all I'm saying.
They just need him to be a body.
Right. I think here's maybe where we're up is like, what do you believe in? Because, yeah, is he going to be somebody who you trust to start playoff games this year? I think there's a very long way to go to get to that point. Is he somebody that, the next time an injured pitcher comes back, is he the first guy that gets knocked down out of the rotation? Or is he somebody that if they keep having other injuries, you kind of trust to give you innings over the next couple months? I think that's more realistic. But I do think, to Dylan's point, he's got to kind of take a step beyond kind of grinding through 4 innings, having way too many balls put in play. I think the fact that he's getting to 2 strikes a lot, that he doesn't feel great about his off-speed stuff yet, probably signals that there's a little bit of room to get better, especially in putting guys away. But I'm with you too here, Plash. Like I don't know, like, when guys start coming back, is he going to be somebody you trust to stay in the rotation? And that's going to become a higher and higher bar the healthier they get over the next couple of weeks. All right. Next person, and do you believe Tanner Scott, who gave very few reasons to believe in him until bouncing back on Tuesday against the Mets in a 10th inning that actually looked pretty good and helped the Dodgers win that game. But that came after 2 weeks of just a lot of bad. So how are we feeling about Tanner Scott as the Dodgers closer?
I mean, are we talking about October here?
I mean,
really? I mean,
right now, he's the highest
October.
paid guy in the bullpen. Evan Phillips is out for the year. Blake Trinan is coming back, but was pushed really hard last October and now has a forearm thing. Michael Kopech was so shaky in his rehab stint in AAA that they haven't even brought him back right away. They had him come back to LA so he could throw another bullpen in front of the coaches and try to figure things out. So a lot is riding on him. And so, yes, I think it's, do you believe in him as their closer? And I think the secondary kind of part of this question is, if you don't, does the bullpen become the place where you have to go get somebody else to fill that role at the deadline?
Yeah, I think I believe in him as a closer. I'm not sure. I don't think we're looking at like prime Kenley Jansen here either. I think there's going to be kind of the occasional blown save. It'll be enough to get the Dodgers to kind of win the division right now. Right. So this is also kind of, we're getting, similar to Kershaw. We're talking about what exactly are you believing in? I don't think we're going to, I believe he will not be like a phantom DL situation where it's like, hey, you know what? We're going to say that you have some kind of elbow thing and we're going to send you to the Arizona complex to kind of rework your delivery.
Do you believe in him to be like the best reliever and a bullpen that can win a World Series? Because that's kind of what they need him to be right now.
No, and I don't either. I think he struggled so much, and the problem is the ball stays in the strike zone too much. He throws a ball right down the middle, and he pitched great on Tuesday night, but people overlook the fact that Dodgers, I didn't see anybody writing this. That was a terrible misplay of a fly ball by Nimmo.
Yes, it
was on Freeman's. That should have been caught, should have been out. So anyway, I just think he comes in the game and my heart races and my palms get sweaty. I think it's over with. The other team's going to win.
Again, Jansen was here for a while and had like many dominant seasons where it's like, right. And I think that's kind of the expectation of the closer here, right? In this city, right? Fair or not, right? But before that, right? Saito, you had Gagne, you had guys that they would come into the night. It is like
juice up Gagne.
Right. We don't have to worry about that. I'm not sure they're going to get to that point, right? And because that is kind of, I think, as a team, what you want is like, okay, we don't have to worry about this. and we can just kind of worry about lining everything else up, right?
Would you trade for Kenny Jansen?
Not Kenley.
No.
And that's kind of a mute point when he's on the Angels. But, I mean, there's going to be some pretty good relievers available out there, especially if some teams, like I look at the St. Louis Cardinals, Ryan Helsley is probably the guy that would fit really well with what the Dodgers are going to need. Because I think what they're going to need...
The Cardinals are going to be buyers, not sellers.
But that's become the problem there. I think what the Dodgers are going to need is a kind of top level, or at least another good right-hander. Because, yeah, I think Tanner Scott, I think the problem here is that, especially if you're a Dodger fan, and I think to some extent the organization, if you look at his career, he has not been like a lockdown guy. Even last year, when he went to the Padres, he wasn't some like 1 ERA guy who never had a bad outing. But in that playoff series against the Dodgers was so dominant, especially against Shohei Ohtani, that I think it kind of helped just be like, man, if we can get this version of that guy over an extended period of time, that's going to be dominant, and it's going to transform what their bullpen can do. And instead, you've gone back to a guy who, yeah, like when the command's a little bit off, when he's missing over the plate, I mean, it's not like the stuff alone is so elite that he can work with a big margin for error. And I think that's the part that is probably concerning. Like, it was good that he bounced back, that in one day he could kind of clean up the mechanics a little bit and command the ball a little bit better and set up his slider for some strikeouts. But yeah, when I look at the construction of the bullpen and then all of the questions with the other pitchers, I think that to me is the equally big problem, is that, who else do you trust right now? Like, there's so many injury concerns or workload concerns that, yeah, even if Tanner Scott is better over the rest of the year, I do look at the bullpen as a place they're going to have to add. And I struggle to believe in him as like, this can be your one top lone guy as a leverage guy, and that's not going to have some potential issues.
The Tanner Scott contract, again, is just further evidence of Ohtani's like money generating.
Yeah, well, now
skill.
it's costing them
those
money.
those were 4 expensive ass at bats.
All right. Do you believe in Max Muncy?
I do, because he's got glasses. Why did they not check his eyes before? Why did it take all these Dodger people not to ignore his eyes? Since his eyes have been fixed and he's got the glasses, he's off the hook. I love him now.
Does he not wear the glasses when he plays defense?
They will take an error a night from him if they have his bat in the lineup.
Obviously I was gushing over Muncy's defensive improvement last year. I think even early this year.
Yeah, after you tweeted Muncy with a capital E.
Right.
Did you really?
I did, yeah.
But and then he started playing better.
I mean, I love the bat. I mean, but it's like having like we're back to him being like a landmine there out on third base, and like, I mean, right now, he's got like 6 home runs in the last like 7 games or something.
He's been hot for a month.
You can't count on him to hit a home run every time like he commits an error to like kind of like balance out the scales there, right? I mean, sure. He needs to be able to. That's the fun. Like, I always figured the bat was going to come around. To me, the concern is about the defense. And I don't know now, man. Like, I
think they'll take the defense and they can have the bat. I think his bat's going to be there. And I think the problem is he's a great DH, but he'll never DH on his team.
I mean, I'd almost rather have Ohtani play third base and you put Muncy at the DH.
Oh, my God. Write that.
Yeah. That'll get some clicks. The thing that's been interesting about Muncy's defense this year is that most of the errors early were throwing errors. The Dodgers think that's a more correctable issue. They thought his arm slot got too high. That's why you saw high throws and ones that were spiked. He's tried to drop it a little bit. The throwing's been more consistent over the last couple weeks since he's done that. Problem is now he's booted like 3 grounders in the last 2 weeks that all had pretty big consequences in the course of those games. And his range, I mean, the Dodgers think he has a good first step, that he breaks on the ball quick, but his range is still limited. And just like fundamentally, like even this play on Tuesday, that's a ground ball. Like, that's a potential inning-ending double play ball that gets Kershaw through the 5th, maybe even lets him get into the 6th. And then we're having probably a different kind of Kershaw conversation. So,
yeah, you would believe, Plash.
Oh, my God. So we met Muncy with committing an error behind Kershaw.
Well, what did Muncy say about
even
that?
Muncy said, mistakes always stink, but when you do it with Kershaw on the mound, it cuts deeper.
Well, how about Kershaw's mistakes? Come on.
But look, I think the way this plays out, is like one of two ways. His defense either incrementally improves over the course of the year. Remember, like last year, it was like fine, maybe even good. Like he was not a liability out there. And he still thinks he can get close back to that level. I think the Dodgers believe there's kind of more in there. And they're going to give him a lot of time to work through it, especially if the bat's playing. Yes, during the regular season, they will take the errors if he can keep hitting. By the time you get to the postseason or down the stretch, that's where it becomes more of a thing. And that's where somebody like Kike Hernández, might get more playing time just because of what he can bring with the glove, get thrown in there late in games. So Muncy, I think this last month has kind of cemented that, he's going to be an integral part of this offense moving forward. You can believe in the bat. He's turned it around like he seems to do every single year as a Dodger. But if he's going to be an everyday guy or more of a platoon guy long term, probably does come down to the glove, and it remains an area of concern.
Yeah, and my kind of thing here, right, is that like you're right, and part of the reason, like I think I went out of my way to like praise his defense was you see he works, right? He's going to put in the work. I'm just kind of wondering now that maybe, right, despite all that work, the fact that it's regressing. Is this a sign that like maybe like age is kind of starting to catch up to him, right? And that this isn't an issue of desire, but about physical capabilities now. And that.
Well, you didn't say about Kershaw.
You're going to compare. I mean, Max Muncy himself would say it'd be ridiculous to compare Max Muncy to Clayton Kershaw.
Yeah, but you give Kershaw a pass for his age. You don't give Muncy a pass for his age.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I guess I didn't. I guess.
That's a great song. Oh, can I show my bobblehead?
Sure.
It's the worst bobblehead ever. That's why I brought it today.
It's a Magic Johnson.
Tell me how many things are wrong with the Magic Johnson bobblehead. Tell me how many things are wrong with this bobblehead.
What is this, like the scoreboard game where they...
No, it won't be.
No, I think it's pretty good.
When he was wearing a basketball uniform, it says Dodgers on it. The Dodgers are not basketball.
Well, right, but it's a Dodger giveaway. Well, you expect
the Dodgers are not basketball.
The Lakers would sue them for copyright infringement.
He's not dribbling basketball. He's dribbling a baseball.
Hey, Sam Fernandez gone, huh? Did he retire? I would assume so. I've never seen him now that I think about it, I don't think I've seen him like in 10 years.
He's dribbling a baseball.
That's the Dodgers lawyer, by the way.
He's dribbling a baseball. That's terrible. He has the Dodger uniform and it's the basketball uniform. That's not right either.
I think it's cool.
The basketball purist Bill Plaschke is offended by the...
No, like, look, it's got his smile. Kind of looks like him, actually.
But why is he wearing a Dodger? Why is he wearing a basketball uniform that says Dodgers are on?
Because
it's a Dodger
they're
giveaway.
making money. They got to get the Laker fans out there.
Oh, by the way, Jack,
look, it even but the head bobs nicely, too.
How was your dentist appointment last week?
Yeah, it ended up getting canceled.
It canceled?
Or I rescheduled it.
So your teeth are still long enough?
You're scared. I was at the dentist the other day, and it's awful. I'm hearing this in the next room, and the guy's going, so I go, oh. I mean, people are screaming in pain. My dentist, it's awful.
Oh, my wife was talking about how, one of her uncles went to get a tooth pulled, and they went to this place in LA where no anesthesia. The guy just yanked it. And my wife was outside. She said he could just hear her scream.
It's unbelievable. I can hear. So did you cancel it because you were scared to go to the dentist?
No, I had a conflict, but I'll get back there.
How did you have like messed up teeth? Did you grow up with money?
It's a terrible one. I
don't know.
It's loud and it gets soft. It goes, you're getting the root. You're in for it so bad, Jack. You're in for it.
That's actually a pretty good sound. All right, I got one more. Do you believe? Do you not believe? Just to steer this back. It's a double. Blake Snell, Tyler Glasnow. Both are somewhat progressing. There was some...
Tyler Glasnow has some discomfort.
There were some differing stories about Tyler Glasnow this week. Dave Roberts said they paused his bullpen progressions because he had some body soreness, some back tightness. Glasnow painted that as a much less concerning issue. He said it was just something that popped up for a few days. Didn't seem overly pleased that this became as big of a story as it did. But they're both supposed to be coming back, throwing bullpens in this next week. Are we believing in them as, pieces that you can trust, especially as you get towards the deadline, right? Do you believe in these guys as guys that are going to be able to hold up over the rest of the year when they do come back? Or without them, it's a very different looking rotation.
I believe in Blake Snell. I'm so sick of Tyler Glasnow. I'm just sick of always hearing about his nicks and pains and aches. And bad in bad weather. I'm just not a Tyler Glasnow fan anymore. I don't think you can trust him. Blake Snell's fine. Tyler Glasnow has a lot to prove to this organization. He's done nothing since signing the big deal here. He's from here. He has a lot to prove, and I don't believe him. No,
I don't. I mean, you just can't believe in Glass now at this point, right? He's got to prove it before, right? I mean, there's so much evidence to the contrary at this point. And Snell, shoulder, I just kind of don't like that. I'll give you one actually. You know who I believe in of the injured guys?
You say Roki Sasaki.
Roki Sasaki.
Oh my God.
God.
You're gonna say that Tyler Glasnow has stuff to prove.
Well, you know what?
Sasaki in his 100 career professional innings is.
Well, it seems like, right? I mean, when Sasaki came here, right, he had his team of like trainers and stuff. It seemed like we've seen him throwing out there now. He's doing this under more team supervision. It seems, I saw him yesterday in the clubhouse, and it's kind of small things, but I think I'm pretty like in tune to like seeing when guys he looked a little bigger. My assumption is that like I think that there was this kind of thing like, look, like right. I mean, there's clearly like a physical difference between him and kind of everybody else on the team. I think, right, maybe this time we'll give him a chance to kind of build up right where he has to be physically. So more than those two guys, I'm not saying that Sasaki's going to be what we thought he might be at the beginning of this season, but I trust him to at least be on the field. Whereas those two guys, I'm not sure.
The question I have is, what were you all doing in the press box at 1:00 in the morning last night?
Looking up how to spell pudding.
I mean,
Like I actually had to Google
like
that.
literally, and it took like
that
3
late.
Google searches.
That's
Well, I had to kind of rewrite my column after I saw how positive.
after you talked to Kershaw and he was nice to you, then you had to rewrite your column. Is that right?
No,
Is that right?
But I told you it was
Yes,
more like
it was.
in the scrum. I saw like there was like I was expecting to go down there to see like a dejected guy like, oh, I'm not sure I can do this anymore, because he usually is a pretty straight shooter.
So players can change your columns by the way they act toward you.
I don't think it's towards me. It's just like what they project, right? No, I mean that's why we go down there, right? I mean,
no,
if
but
not Plaschke, because if we just watched it, right, we would just be fans with a blog. What separates us from those people is the fact that we go down there and we talk to people. That's called journalism, Plaschke.
I don't think anything a player says.
I know you're too big now to go down to the clubhouse.
No, I don't think anything a player says should change the way you view the way he pitched.
No, I'm not saying that he pitched well. I said he didn't pitch well, right? And I pointed out the fact that there's all this evidence to the contrary, but the fact that like he seems to, right? And again, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here. I don't think it was an acting performance. I think he genuinely believes that he can be a solid contributor on this team, and if he believes it, you know what? Like I'm gonna bet on it too.
Can a player change your opinion of their performance by the way they talk in the clubhouse?
Of a performance, no. But I think they can explain. I think it's the moving forward part, right? Like if they can clearly explain, well, this is what went wrong. This is how I think I can fix it. These are the reasons why I believe. Then sure, I think that you can come away with it with a more kind of auspicious spin.
No, I wrote a negative column after the loss to the Yankees in Game 3 of the series, and went down to the clubhouse afterward. Everybody was so positive, but I stayed negative. Because I believe that, of course, they're going to be positive. Of course, they're going to feel this way. Of course, they're going to look.
Yeah, and then what happened the next night?
No, what happened was Houston Mitchell ripped me in his column.
And then the Dodgers
And they won.
And they won the World Series. I mean, a good example, I think, of this thing, right, is like Walker Buehler last year.
I love him.
Right? We went through the kind of this whole season, right, where it wasn't going well. And at the beginning, it's like, okay, I got to figure things out. And you know what? I got to do this quickly. And you're like, hey, like this guy's kind of holding himself accountable, right? And I like where this is going. But at some point, right, there was a point like kind of in mid-season where it's like, okay, I've heard this enough now, right? So then, your instincts at this point tell you maybe I shouldn't believe this guy quite as much. But kind of in the end, it it kind of worked out, right? And so I do think
this is a really scientific way to decide what we believe and don't believe.
It's interesting. It's interesting.
Because we cover people, right? We're not, because you talk about the difference between us and like the Japanese media. They're tracking like every pitch. We're not studying the game at that detail. We're in the business of covering people. I think American readers, right? That's ultimately what they want to know is like, what are these people like? And I think that again, through that type of scope, a lot of it kind of comes down to, are you going to bet on this guy? Right. And look, I've been wrong a lot. I've written over the years, well, Kershaw thinks he can do it. You got to believe in Kershaw. And right, there were all these October meltdowns, whatever. But I still kind of believe that you kind of place your bets on these, the LeBron Jameses of the world. Like those are the guys you bet on.
Well, what's this? When Cody Bellinger in 2018, was it 18 or 19 World Series where he set the strikeout record? Was that 17? Anyway, he faced the media. He faced the media afterward. He was such a stand-up guy that I'm a big fan of Bellinger forever now. So I will say that it can affect you if you're down in the clubhouse and they're facing the music,
right.
They're rolling with the punches.
Or remember the Bueller start in Atlanta? What was that, like a playoff game or something? Didn't he get he got bombed in his first playoff game?
Oh yeah,
right. And
he gave up the grand slam.
Yeah, and he went out there and he took it, right. And he blamed himself. And you're like, okay, this guy's not in denial about what happened. We think he can move forward,
and he did.
Yeah, and then again, in Kershaw's case, he's got an 18-year track record here, man.
No, I'm telling you, I think he's the best pitcher in Dodger history.
But you don't believe in him now. You don't believe. You think that whole thing was a performance and that I got bamboozled.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Thanks for playing Do You Believe or Not?
Well, Dylan had a great column this week. You got to read his column about going with the Japanese riders down the track, Ohtani's home run ball. It's a great column. Read that. If you read anything else this week, check it out. Read a column.
Dylan almost had a heart attack going to report it. So yes,
read
it. It was so much activity.
You know what I loved about that was to see the respect that the younger reporters have for their elders. Like when they went out there to the stands, the two guys that actually went down to go fish the person out.
Like this is about
the
to
two
get
younger reporters.
Me.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine Jack going down and?
I totally appreciate you.
Jack barely making it here on time.
I really appreciate you guys. You guys show me so much respect, and I appreciate that. I really appreciate that, and I feel it, so I appreciate it. Oh, by the way, I set a record for food left on the press box table after the game on Sunday. It was so hot. I only ate half my pizza. I didn't touch my 3 cookies. I didn't touch my hot dog. They were all just left there on the press box when I left. Jack leaves it. It's empty. Your place is clean.
Yes,
Dylan. What about you?
It is. Doug. Shout out Doug Tamaro, great Arizona State SID.
What do you say?
Clean up your press box seat.
Well, I'm Japanese or half, so I'm ethnic. My DNA makes me clean up everything. You haven't seen when they go to the World Cup?
I know they do. I'm just saying I've seen your press box seat when we've been leaving at 1 a.m.
Okay, that might have been a bit of a fib.
I like this little game. Thanks for Dylan for writing such a great Kershaw columm to get
us going.
Are you gonna? I want you to apologize to Kershaw later this year when he's.
Apologize to him for what?
Well,
I haven't written.
You're making him sound like he's like some kind of con man.
No, I mean...
You should apologize to me, too.
Oh, no, he's just doing what he does. He's being the kind of guy he should be, positive, looking forward, believes in himself. You're the one who's a sucker. You're the sucker.
Okay. All right, well, for the sucker and the highly respected out-of-statesman of the podcast, we'll talk to you guys next week.
Thank you.